Ever wonder how a nomadic tribe from the steppes of Mongolia managed to build the largest contiguous land empire in history? In less than a century, the Mongols conquered more territory than the Romans did in 400 years. It's a staggering achievement that has baffled historians for ages. What was their secret? Was it just brute force, or was there something more to their lightning-fast conquests? Today we're diving deep into the tactics, technology, and sheer tenacity that made the Mongol army the most formidable fighting force of its time. Let's start with the foundation of it all. The Mongol warrior himself. From the moment they could walk, Mongol children were learning to ride horses. By age 3 or 4, they were already skilled archers. The horse wasn't just a mode of transport, it was an extension of the warrior's body. They could eat, sleep, and most importantly, fight from horseback. This unparalleled equestrian skill gave them a mobility that no other army could match. Imagine an entire army that could cover 100 miles in a single day, appearing as if from nowhere to strike and then vanishing back into the horizon, before a response could even be organized. This wasn't just an army, it was a force of nature. Their primary weapon was the Mongol composite bow. This wasn't your average longbow. It was a marvel of engineering, made from laminated sinew, wood, and horn. This construction gave it incredible power and a longer range than most bows of the era. A Mongol horse archer could accurately shoot arrows at a target over 350 meters away. Now picture thousands of these archers riding in coordinated formations, showering their enemies with a relentless storm of arrows. They didn't need to engage in messy, close-quarters combat right away. They could weaken, demoralize, and break enemy formations from a safe distance, a tactic known as the arrow storm. It was terrifyingly effective, but speed and archery were only part of the equation. What truly set the Mongols apart was their brilliant military organization and discipline, largely thanks to Genghis Khan himself. He reorganized the army based on a decimal system. Soldiers were grouped into units of 10, called arban. 10 arbans formed a company of 100, or a jagun. 10 jaguns made a regiment of 1,000, a mingan. And 10 mingans formed a two-men, a division of 10,000 warriors. This system broke down old tribal loyalties and fostered a new sense of unity and discipline based on merit, not birth. Promotions were earned on the battlefield, creating a highly motivated and loyal fighting force. Orders could be relayed quickly and efficiently through this chain of command, using a complex system of flags, horns, and signal arrows, allowing for sophisticated maneuvers on a massive scale. One of their most famous and feared tactics was the feigned retreat. It was a masterclass in psychological warfare. A Mongol unit would charge the enemy line, engage briefly, and then suddenly break and flee in apparent panic. An overconfident or undisciplined enemy would often break formation and give chase, thinking they had won. This was the trap. As the enemy pursued, they would stretch their lines thin, becoming disorganized and exhausted. Then, at a prearranged signal, the fleeing Mongols would turn back, joined by fresh, hidden reserves that would envelop and annihilate the now scattered enemy. It worked time and time again, luring even experienced armies to their doom. The Mongols were also masters of intelligence and espionage. Before any invasion, they would send spies and scouts deep into enemy territory. These agents would gather crucial information about the terrain, the enemy's military strength, political divisions, and the location of resources like water and grazing land for their horses. They would map out routes, identify weaknesses, and even sow discord among their future opponents. By the time the main Mongol army arrived, they often knew more about the land they were invading than the people who lived there. This meticulous preparation allowed them to move with a speed and certainty that seemed almost supernatural to their foes. Furthermore, they were brilliant siege engineers, which might seem counterintuitive for a nomadic people. When they first encountered large fortified cities, they were stumped. But the Mongols were incredibly adaptable. They didn't just destroy, they absorbed. They captured engineers, artisans, and scholars from the lands they conquered, most notably from China and Persia. and forced them to build advanced siege weapons. Trebuchets that could hurl massive stones, gunpowder-based weapons, battering rams, and sophisticated siege towers all became part of the Mongol arsenal. They would often build these war machines on site using local resources, turning a city's own defenses against it. No war was safe. Psychological warfare was another key weapon. The Mongols cultivated a reputation for absolute ruthlessness. Tales of their ferocity would travel far ahead of their armies. They often offered a choice: surrender unconditionally and be spared, or resist and face total annihilation. If a city resisted, the Mongols would make an example of it, leaving few survivors to tell the tale. This surrender or die policy was brutal, but incredibly effective. Fearing the same fate, many cities and rulers would simply surrender without a fight, allowing the Mongols to conquer vast territories with minimal casualties on their own side. Their reputation did much of the fighting for them. Let's not forget logistics. How do you feed and supply an army of over 100,000 warriors and even more horses on the move? The Mongol army was a self-sufficient machine. Each soldier traveled with a string of reserve horses, allowing them to switch to a fresh mount and maintain their incredible pace. They carried their own supplies, including dried meat and curd, and were experts at living off the land, hunting and foraging as they went. In a pinch, a Mongol warrior could even drink blood from a small cut in their horse's vein to survive. This lean and mean logistical train meant they weren't tied down to slow-moving supply wagons like European armies. They were a torrent, not a slow-moving river. So, when you combine these elements, unmatched horsemanship, superior bow technology, brilliant military organization, clever tactics like the feigned retreat, extensive intelligence gathering, advanced siegecraft, terrifying psychological warfare, and incredible logistical efficiency, you get a recipe for the fastest and most successful conquering force in human history. The Mongol conquests weren't just a random series of violent raids. They were the result of a sophisticated and highly disciplined military system, orchestrated by a genius leader and executed by the toughest warriors on the planet. They changed the world map forever, and their methods of warfare are still studied to this day. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back in time. If you found this as fascinating as I did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the most incredible stories from history. Don't forget to ring the notification bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next video.